Have you ever sat in your favorite chair, listening to the world outside, and wondered if this next chapter of life could actually be the most peaceful one yet? Maybe you felt the gentle pull toward solitude, the kind where you finally get to live on your own terms, without the noise, without the endless compromises. If you have, you're not alone. Today, I want to talk with you heart to heart about a topic that's often misunderstood, but holds incredible power, especially after the age of 65. Living alone. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Isn't living alone at this age a little risky? Isn't it lonely? Isn't it something we're supposed to avoid? But what if I told you that, for many seniors, living alone isn't a mistake? It's one of the smartest, healthiest decisions they could make. In fact, today, we're going to explore 6 powerful reasons why choosing to live alone after 65 might be exactly what your heart, mind, and body need to thrive. Not just survive, but really, truly thrive. Let's start by talking about something that too many people overlook: the beauty of reclaiming your autonomy. There's a deep, timeless human need to steer our own ship, to decide when to wake up, when to eat, what music to listen to, what kind of life to lead day by day. After decades of taking care of others, from raising children to supporting spouses, or even elderly parents, it's easy to forget how it feels to be the one making all the decisions just for you. Living alone reopens that door. Imagine waking up and deciding on a whim whether you'll have eggs or just coffee for breakfast, without anyone else's preferences swirling in your mind. Picture being able to read until midnight because you want to, or dancing in the kitchen to a song that only you adore, without worrying about disturbing someone else. When you live alone, you don't have to explain yourself. You don't have to adjust or negotiate tiny things like the thermostat or what's for dinner. It might seem like a small thing, but over time it becomes monumental. It's about dignity. It's about honoring your own preferences without guilt, without interruption. Take Eleanor, for example, a spirited 71-year-old woman who had spent several years living with her adult daughter after recovering from surgery. She was grateful for the help, no doubt. Meals were made with love, rides to appointments were abundant, but something subtle and painful started to happen. She found herself muting her favorite old jazz records because her teenage grandson complained about the noise. She changed her meal times to match the family's routine, and without even realizing it, she stopped choosing her own bedtime altogether. The day she moved back into her cozy one-bedroom apartment, something inside her reignited. She stood a little taller. Her laughter became fuller. She started playing those old records again, dancing barefoot across the living room floor, her spirit blooming like a long-forgotten flower finally given sunlight. Living alone gave Eleanor her choices back. It reminded her that she was still vibrant, still evolving, still deserving of days shaped around what made her happy. And here's the beautiful thing: self-respect grows quietly when you honor your own needs. And self-respect, no matter what age you are, always leads to strength. Now, let's talk about another gift that living alone often brings: a peaceful environment. Think about the last time you sat in a truly quiet space, where the only sounds were the gentle hum of the refrigerator, the creak of your favorite chair, maybe the soft rustle of a breeze through an open window. Not the kind of silence that feels empty or lonely, but the kind that feels like a soft, warm blanket wrapped around your soul. When you live alone, you get to create that peace. You control the volume of your day, the energy that enters your home. No background television blaring from the next room. No conversations bleeding through the walls. Just you, your breathing, and the slow, sacred unfolding of a day that belongs entirely to you. This isn't just comforting, it's healing. Studies show that quiet environments reduce cortisol levels, the stress hormone linked to high blood pressure, poor sleep, and anxiety. Your nervous system settles. Your body repairs itself. Your mind becomes clearer. I think of George, a 76-year-old retired professor who had spent years sharing his home with his adult son and 3 young grandchildren. While he adored them dearly, the noise, the hustle, the constant demands for attention wore him down. He didn't even notice it at first. He just knew he was tired all the time, forgetful, easily irritated. When his family moved into a bigger home of their own, George decided not to downsize right away. Instead, he stayed in the old house, letting it breathe with him. Within weeks, his sleep improved. His appetite returned. He started writing poetry again, something he hadn't done in nearly 30 years. Not because he had more time, he always had time, but because his mind finally had the quiet it needed to dream again. When you create a peaceful environment for yourself, you're not just protecting your space, you're protecting your health, your creativity, and your emotional resilience. You're giving yourself a gift that so many spend their whole lives chasing: real, lasting inner calm. Living alone doesn't mean living without connection. It means living with intention. Choosing when and how to connect with others, instead of being swept up in the tides of someone else's emotions or schedules. It means cultivating a space where your soul can exhale deeply, free of demands, free of expectations. And as we continue, I want you to really think about this. When was the last time you truly listened to your own needs without the noise of others drowning them out? When was the last time you made a choice just for you, without second-guessing if it would please someone else? Because you deserve that peace. You deserve that autonomy. You deserve to live these years in a way that honors everything you've been through, everything you've learned, and everything you still dream about becoming. Now that we've opened the door to the ideas of autonomy and peace, let's walk a little further inside and look at another beautiful gift living alone can offer: the freedom to shape your own routine. There's something almost magical about waking up when your body says it's ready, not when an alarm clock demands it. About eating when you're truly hungry, not just because someone else put dinner on the table. About deciding without a second thought that today is for errands, or painting, or simply sitting by the window with a good book and a pot of tea. When you live alone, your days belong to you again. They aren't dictated by someone else's calendar, habits, or expectations. And that kind of freedom isn't selfish, it's soulful. It allows you to listen more carefully to your own body's needs, to honor its rhythms, its whispers for rest or movement, for quiet or adventure. I think of Louise, a 74-year-old artist who spent a few years living with her daughter's family after retiring. The first few months were filled with joy, grandchildren running up for hugs, shared dinners, laughter echoing through the halls. But slowly, she found herself adjusting her days to match the bustling household around her. Breakfast at 7 a.m. Not because she wanted it, but because the kitchen was loud by then. Afternoons spent babysitting instead of painting. Even her precious Sunday mornings, once reserved for sipping coffee and sketching at the park, slipped away under the weight of family plans. When Louise finally moved into a sunlit apartment near a small lake, she said it felt like she had been handed back the brush to her own life's canvas. Her mornings stretched lazily into afternoons. She painted when inspiration struck, not when the clock said it was convenient. She walked by the lake at sunset, letting the sky's colors blend into her spirit. And day by day, she felt herself coming back to life. Too often, older adults get swept into the current of other people's timelines, thinking it's inevitable. But it's not. Living alone hands you back the steering wheel. It reminds you that every day is yours to design, slow and soft or busy and bright, depending on what you need, not what others expect. And when you live according to your own natural rhythm, something even deeper starts to happen. You begin to rebuild a trust in yourself that perhaps got a little dusty over the years. You stop rushing through meals. You stop squeezing your joys into the leftover corners of the day. You start living fully, breathing deeply, smiling more often at nothing in particular, just because life feels right again. That leads beautifully into another unexpected blessing that often comes with living alone: emotional resilience, and confidence. There's a quiet strength that builds when you know you can take care of yourself. Not because you have to, but because you choose to. Every time you pay a bill, fix a squeaky door, decide what's for dinner, or simply turn the key in your own front door, you're sending yourself a message. I am capable. I am steady. I am still fully in charge of my life. For many seniors, the world whispers the opposite. It tells them that growing older means growing weaker, more dependent, less able. But reality doesn't have to match those whispers. In fact, for those who choose to live alone, life often proves just the opposite. Take Frank, a 79-year-old former mechanic who decided to stay in his modest house after his wife passed. At first, friends and family gently pressured him to move in with his daughter, to let someone look after him. But Frank knew something deep down. He knew that being able to fix the leaky faucet, mow his small lawn, and make his own breakfast was more than just about chores. It was about dignity. Sure, he had to adjust a few things. He hired a neighbor's son to handle the heavier yard work. He switched to online grocery delivery. He was smart and cautious. But each small task he managed himself became a stone, building a solid foundation of confidence. One evening, after changing the batteries in his smoke detector, a task he'd never thought twice about before, he smiled and said to himself, "I've still got it." And that belief, that quiet knowing, it's priceless. It doesn't just make you stronger for today. It cushions you against the storms that might come tomorrow. It fills your days with pride instead of fear, with self-respect instead of self-doubt. When you prove to yourself little by little that you're still capable, still vibrant, still evolving, you're not just living alone, you're living empowered. You're writing a new chapter of your story, one where you are the main character, not a background figure in someone else's narrative. And let's be honest, life after 65 still has plenty of stories to tell. Stories of discovery, of quiet triumphs, of laughing out loud in an empty room because you remembered something funny from years ago. Stories of finding new hobbies, reconnecting with old friends, or simply discovering the simple, sacred joy of your own company. You see, living alone isn't about being isolated from the world. It's about standing firmly in yourself, grounded, capable, and awake to the possibilities still unfolding around you. As you settle into this idea of confidence and resilience, another beautiful truth starts to reveal itself. Living alone after 65 often brings something so simple yet so transformative: fewer social conflicts and emotional friction. When you live with others, even those you love dearly, there's always a bit of navigating involved. Tiny adjustments, small compromises, silent negotiations about how loud the TV should be, when dinner gets served, whether the door should stay open or closed. Day after day, little frictions like that add up. You start biting your tongue, swallowing small irritations, bending yourself ever so slightly to keep the peace. But when you live alone, that pressure lifts. You no longer have to tiptoe around someone else's moods or needs. Your space becomes a sanctuary, not a battlefield of unspoken compromises. There's no need to debate whether you can eat ice cream for dinner or watch a movie at 2 a.m. You answer only to yourself. It's amazing how much lighter your heart feels when you're not constantly bracing for the next misunderstanding, the next debate, the next compromise that leaves you feeling just a little bit smaller. I remember hearing about Judith, a vibrant 78-year-old who had lived with her son and daughter-in-law for a few years. It started with the best of intentions: love, support, family togetherness. But slowly, tensions crept in. Judith loved working in her garden at odd hours, but her daughter-in-law worried it was unsafe. She preferred soft music playing during dinner. They wanted silence. Little by little, Judith found herself shrinking her world to fit into theirs. And even though there was love, The undercurrent of tension wore her down. When she moved into a small, sun-filled condo nearby, everything changed. She said the first night she made spaghetti at 9 p.m., barefoot in her kitchen, music playing as loud as she wanted, she laughed out loud just from the sheer joy of it. No one to scold her, no one to correct her, just freedom. And here's the secret. When you remove the constant low-level tension from your daily life, you don't just feel more at ease, you actually show up better when you are with others. You visit family with a heart full of warmth, not weariness. You meet friends without carrying the residue of household frustrations. Living alone doesn't mean closing the door on relationships. It means protecting the quality of those relationships by making sure your own emotional well-being isn't quietly sacrificed every single day. When you have space to breathe, your love, your laughter, your kindness, they don't get rationed out of exhaustion. They pour freely because you're filled up first. And isn't that the kind of connection we all dream of having? Now, as we walk further into this journey, there's something even deeper waiting in the stillness, a stronger connection with yourself. This, my friend, might be the most precious gift of all. You see, when the house is quiet, not lonely, but truly peacefully quiet, you begin to hear things you might have forgotten. You hear your own thoughts without interruption. You hear your own memories whispering in the back of your mind, ready to be honored. You hear your own dreams, still alive, still waiting for you to reach toward them. So much of life, especially when raising families or building careers, is about serving others, being the steady one, the responsible one, the caretaker. And somewhere along the way, it's easy to lose touch with that curious, hopeful inner voice you once knew so well. Living alone reintroduces you to that voice. It invites you to ask, what do I want now? Not what someone else expects, not what the schedule demands, but what your spirit longs for. I think of Henry, an 84-year-old widower who had spent his whole life surrounded by family and friends. When his wife passed and his children moved away, he made a radical decision, not to fill the empty house with busyness, not to invite a roommate, not to rush out and join every club in town. Instead, he sat with the quiet. At first, it was uncomfortable, even frightening. But then, something extraordinary happened. He began writing. Stories at first, then little poems, then long, meandering letters to friends he hadn't spoken to in years. He started painting watercolors of the oak trees outside his window. He wasn't trying to be productive. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was simply reconnecting with himself. One afternoon, after a long walk under the golden autumn leaves, he said to a friend, "I thought I was alone, but I wasn't. I just finally found me." That is the kind of treasure solitude can offer. A homecoming, not just to a house, but to your own soul. And when you think about it, isn't that what aging should be? Not a slow fading into invisibility, but a deeper unfolding into authenticity? Living alone isn't about absence. It's about presence. Being deeply, intentionally present with your own life, feeling your own breath, honoring your own heartbeat, listening to your own laughter echo off the walls of a home that belongs entirely to you. You realize that solitude isn't loneliness, it's a sanctuary. A sacred, beautiful space where you meet yourself again, fully, honestly, without apology. And that, dear friend, is a kind of joy that no crowded room, no bustling house could ever replace. As we come closer to the heart of this conversation, I want you to take a moment and really feel the weight of all we've talked about. The strength of reclaiming your autonomy, the deep healing of a peaceful environment, the soulful joy of setting your own rhythm, the quiet pride that grows when you know you can stand strong on your own, the tenderness that comes from protecting your emotional energy, and the profound sacred connection with yourself that blossoms when the world around you falls silent. Choosing to live alone after 65 isn't about giving up. It's not about withdrawing or resigning yourself to loneliness. It's about stepping fully, gracefully into the life you've worked so hard to create. It's about saying, I still matter. My choices matter. My peace matters. And maybe for the first time in a very long time, you get to say that not just in whispers under your breath, but out loud, in the way you move through your day, in the way you decorate your space, in the way you savor your morning coffee, or laugh out loud at a memory only you could cherish. There's incredible dignity in that. You see, society often paints aging with a heavy brush, talking only about decline, about limitations, about what's lost. But there's another story, a truer one. Aging can be about gaining too. Gaining wisdom, gaining clarity, gaining the beautiful freedom to live life exactly as you need it, without apology, without compromise. Living alone is one of the ways many seniors embrace that gain, not because they are forced to, but because they choose to. They choose to protect their peace like the treasure it is. They choose to let their spirit breathe without always folding itself around the needs of others. They choose to honor their rhythms, their joys, their memories, and their hopes without having to explain them away. And you know something else? Living alone doesn't mean living without love. If anything, it makes room for love to become even deeper, more meaningful. When your heart is rested, when your mind is calm, when your soul feels seen by the person staring back at you in the mirror, you show up to your relationships fuller, softer, stronger. Visits with family become sweeter, not strained. Conversations with friends become richer, not rushed. You give from abundance, not from depletion. Because you are no longer living out of obligation, you are living out of intention. You are giving your best because you have first given yourself what you need. And that, my friend, is what true connection really looks like. So, if you've been standing at a crossroads, wondering whether solitude is a risk or a gift, wondering whether living alone after 65 is brave or foolish, I hope today's conversation planted a new seed inside you. A seed of possibility, of permission, of hope. You are not too old to choose yourself. You are not too fragile to be strong. You are not too late to live a life that feels deeply, wholly yours. This chapter of life, this wide-open, sunlit chapter, belongs to you. You've earned it through every sacrifice you made, every kindness you gave, every hill you climbed, and every burden you carried. Now it's time to lay some of those burdens down. It's time to breathe, to dance in your kitchen without shame, to eat breakfast at noon if you feel like it, to sing badly and loudly if it brings you joy, to nap without apology, to walk without destination, to write letters to no one but yourself. It's time to come home, not just to a place, but to yourself. And whether that home is a cozy apartment, a small cottage, or simply a room filled with your favorite things, let it be yours. Let it reflect you. Let it nurture you. Let it remind you every single day. You are not fading. You are unfolding. You are not finished. You are still becoming. And there's no timeline for becoming. There's no expiration date on joy. No age limit on wonder. No final call for dreaming new dreams. Living alone can be your way of choosing life with both hands open. It can be your way of saying yes to yourself, to your peace, to the rich and beautiful possibilities still ahead. So, if your heart is pulling you toward a quieter, more intentional way of living, listen to it. Trust it. Because sometimes the greatest adventures don't begin with boarding a plane or climbing a mountain. Sometimes they begin with closing a door, taking a deep breath, and realizing you are exactly where you need to be, with yourself, for yourself. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If any part of this message resonated with you, I would love to hear from you in the comments. Share your thoughts, your dreams, or simply one small thing you're looking forward to in this beautiful season of life. And if you found this conversation helpful or inspiring, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click the bell so you never miss another heart-to-heart talk like this one. Your support helps us keep creating meaningful content for wonderful people just like you. Until next time, take gentle care of yourself. Protect your peace. Celebrate your journey. And remember, you are never too old, and it is never too late to live a life that feels like home.